The woman who was supposed to be my future, Chloe Vance, held up a diamond ring. In front of everyone, she begged me to put it on her finger. I've been looking for you for 5 years, Ryan. Whatever anger you had, it should be gone by now. Today, will you marry me? She was wearing that white sundress I always loved, looking as pure as a lily in a pond. But in my eyes, this woman was filthy. I snatched the ring, brutally shoved it into her mouth, and then sent her sprawling to the ground with a backhand slap. The disgusting spectacle turned my stomach. I needed to find a bathroom. Now, leaving Chloe on the floor, staring after me in disbelief, I walked away. 5 years. It had been 5 years since I'd set foot on the campus of Westwood University. I was only back for alumni weekend. Strolling down the familiar tree-lined paths, memories flooded back. 4 years of undergrad, 2 for my master's. I'd had so many good times here. Too bad it all ended in a goddamn tragedy. A voice, sharp with surprise, cut through my thoughts. Ryan? Is that really you? That voice. My stomach clenched. I looked up. A beautiful woman stood before me. Perfectly shaped eyebrows, a blush on her cheeks. And that white sundress, the one that used to be my favorite thing in the world. 5 years had chiseled away the softness of her features, replacing it with the sharp, confident edge of a woman in charge. Chloe Vance. Of course it was you. We had been childhood sweethearts, in the same class from elementary school all the way through college. It felt like fate, this incredible connection that made us fall in love. My biggest dream had once been to hold her hand as we walked through life and grew old together. I just never imagined one transfer student could burn it all to the ground. For that man, she accused me of plagiarizing my master's thesis, a lie that almost got me expelled. A love that ends in tragedy is just a curse. Ryan, where have you been for the last 5 years? I couldn't find you anywhere. Chloe's voice was a frantic mix of excitement and anxiety. She launched into a monologue about how much she missed me, about all the effort she'd put into finding me. Do you know how hard it was to breathe without you? I spent so many nights just staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Ryan, let's stop this. Let's just forget about everything that happened. Okay. She watched me, her eyes wide, searching for any flicker of my old self. I shove her away. There's nothing between us anymore. Now get the hell out of my way. No. She grabbed my sleeve, refusing to let go. Just then, a few of Chloe's friends ran over and started chiming in. It's been so long. It wasn't even a big deal. You two should just let it go. Chloe waited for you for 5 years. How many 5 years does a woman have? Don't be an ungrateful jerk. She's a successful founder now, a CEO. You need to get a grip on reality, Ryan. Their chirping voices grated on my nerves, a hornet's nest buzzing in my head. A violent rage began to simmer in my chest. That's when Chloe held up the diamond ring. Ryan, please, put this on my finger. It's a symbol of our love. Will you marry me? Seeing that ring, the fire in my chest exploded. After she let that transfer student destroy my life, now she pulls this stunt? How dare she? Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I grabbed the ring, shoved it into her mouth, and sent her to the pavement with a vicious slap. A good dog knows not to block the path. As her friends stared, their mouths hanging open in shock, I strode away without a backward glance. Chloe's stunt had made me physically ill. I had to find a bathroom and splash some water on my face. She never even tried to understand what happened back then. She just swallowed his lies whole, stood up in front of the disciplinary board, and condemned me. She was the one who testified for him, the one who ruined my reputation. I can personally attest that Evan Reed's thesis was his own work. That means Ryan Sterling is the one who plagiarized it. I will never forget those words. Not as long as I live. Thankfully, my advisor, Professor Wallace, stepped in and managed to smooth things over just enough for me to graduate. But I was too ashamed to stay in the country. I left for Europe and started over. 5 years. Now I was back, ready to launch my own venture. And I swore to myself, every debt would be paid in full. First things first, I needed a place to live. I wasn't short on cash, so I was looking for a sprawling penthouse condo. Something over 2,500 square feet, with a terrace big enough to host a party. Room to grow for a wife and kids. Even with 3 kids, we wouldn't feel cramped. I walked into the sales office of the most exclusive new high-rise in Bellevue and came face to face with an old acquaintance. Tiffany Shaw. She was one of Chloe's closest friends, now working as a real estate agent. Back in college, she was always chasing status. I figured the reason she wasn't at the alumni event was because she was too embarrassed by how her life turned out. Tiffany was more than just shallow. She was malicious. She was the one who spread the plagiarism rumors all over campus, making sure everyone knew. On graduation day, she'd even sneered at me, calling me a pathetic simp. Compared to Evan, you're nothing, she'd said. You'll never be good enough for our Chloe. I remembered every single word. Funny how things change. I bought the most expensive penthouse in the building. A cool $3 million. I'll pay in full. Run the card. I slid an obsidian black credit card across the desk. Tiffany's eyes widened. That, combined with my 6'1" frame, tailored suit, and a face that had sharpened with age, seemed to have an effect. A flush crept up her neck, and she looked like she could barely stand. Ryan, I can't believe how much you've changed, she breathed, her voice dripping with a newfound sweetness. I gave her a half smile. You've got to keep moving forward, right? She nodded eagerly and asked me to dinner. I accepted. It was the first time Tiffany Shaw ever bought me a meal. It would also be her last. Over dinner, I told her a heavily edited version of my last 5 years. She marveled at my supposed luck, complimenting me on my resilience. In return, she complained about how hard her life was, how difficult it was to make money. She'd had a few failed relationships since college. They were all losers. Couldn't even support a wife. Not like you. You're so successful. Under the table, she slipped off her high heel and ran her foot up my leg. She was cheap and obvious, but I guess she could put out a fire if you were desperate enough. Too bad for her. She wasn't my type. After several failed attempts to seduce me, she excused herself. When I went to the restroom a few minutes later, I saw her slip something into my drink. Even knowing the history between me and Chloe, this snake was still willing to betray her supposed best friend. How naive. She was signing her own death warrant. I returned to the table and, when she wasn't looking, swapped our glasses. Half an hour later, the drug took effect. Her eyes glazed over, her body flushed with heat. If you're hot, you should get some air, I said. I helped her out of the restaurant and left her standing on the curb. She was completely out of it, desperately clinging to me, wrapping herself around me like an octopus. But I gave her nothing. I simply pointed a thumb toward a gleaming black Mercedes pulling up to the valet. Look, I said, looks like your ride is here. Her eyes lit up. Thank God, she slurred and stumbled off the curb, straight into the street. Crunch. A sickening thud. Mr. Sterling, should I arrange a date for you for this evening's gala? My assistant, Leo, asked. Not necessary. I stood up and walked to the window, lighting a cigarette. The winter night fell fast in Seattle. My reflection stared back at me from the dark glass. I exhaled a cloud of smoke, watching it dissolve into my own silhouette. The last few years, I'd poured my soul into electric vehicle battery research, securing multiple key patents. That work had attracted a massive investment from AU's venture capital fund, which brought me back to launch a new energy division stateside. The day I landed, I'd already secured a strategic partnership with the largest taxi and rideshare co-op in 5 states to begin retrofitting their fleet of 1 million vehicles. Tonight's gala was my first chance to meet with potential battery suppliers and finalize contracts. I was making my way through the event when I saw her again. Chloe. And standing next to her was a man. Average-looking, with a dark, brooding expression. Even a slight curve of his lips seemed laced with coldness. It was the transfer student, Evan Reed. 5 years hadn't improved him. He was even more repulsive than I remembered. I felt a flash of irritation. What rotten luck. I wasn't surprised to see him, though. I'd done my research before coming back. I knew he worked at Chloe's company. They spotted me at the same time. Chloe's face registered shock. Ryan, what are you doing here? Are you here for Mr. Sterling's event? She looked me up and down. Who are you with? Did you find a job? Heh, my suit alone was worth 20 grand, and she thought I was someone's assistant? So much for her sharp CEO eyes. Ryan, long time no see. Chloe told me you were back. I'm really glad to see you, Evan said, pulling me into an enthusiastic hug, as if we were long-lost friends. But the smile on his face was as stiff and welcoming as a coffin lid. You only got back a few days ago, right? You probably don't have a full-time gig yet. Still interning somewhere. he asked condescendingly. Tell me what company, and I'll put in a good word, get you a permanent offer. I smiled faintly. You seem to be doing pretty well for yourself. And here I thought you were just Chloe's boy toy. Evan's expression tightened. Chloe quickly jumped in to change the subject. Did you hear about Tiffany Shaw? She was in an accident. She passed away. Evan and I just went to her funeral yesterday. I shook my head. Sorry, I didn't really know her. Chloe sighed, knowing full well what our relationship had been. She changed tack again. You should come work at my company. I've saved a position for you, chief assistant. I feigned confusion. Assistant is one thing, but what does chief mean? Does that mean I have to sleep with the boss? The comment made Chloe blush furiously. A sneer crept onto my face. You want me to work for you? Seriously? This is the same woman who called me a plagiarist, a person with no moral character. Evan immediately cut in. That was obviously a misunderstanding. I'm sure you didn't copy anything. He turned to me, his tone pious. Chloe was just worried sick back then, so she got things wrong. Ryan, you're a man. You should be more magnanimous. Chloe frowned, suddenly turning on me. Ryan, you know exactly what happened. I was your girlfriend. Of course I didn't want you to do something wrong. Was that such a crime? She demanded. And look at your attitude now. I'm willing to let the past go. So why are you still holding on to it? You have got to be kidding me. I couldn't stop myself. I spat directly in her face. Why don't you tell me what happened? Stop barking like a rabid dog. My gaze was like a razor, cutting between the two of them. Everyone gets what they deserve in the end. Karma always gets its due. I turned to leave, then paused as if remembering something. Oh, by the way, I said, looking back at them, that Tiffany Shaw was an accomplice back then, wasn't she? Look how karma caught up with her. Chloe and Evan stared at each other, a sudden chill running down their spines. Just a few words with them left a foul taste in my mouth. Luckily, the gala hadn't officially started. I headed for the restroom to clear my head. As I rounded a corner, I saw a woman huddled in a darkened alcove. Her head was bowed, a curtain of jet black hair hiding most of her face. But her figure was impossible to miss, a bombshell chest and a wasp waist. Top tier. Hearing my footsteps, she looked up. Her eyes were like stars, glittering in the dim light. Her lips parted in a soft, pained moan. It was a face built for temptation. I recognized her. She was the sole heiress to the Thorne dynasty, Serafina Thorne. Seeing her here, like this, was a surprise. Serafina wasn't just famous in the business world. She was a regular in the gossip columns. As the acting CEO and future head of Thorne Industries, she had stunning looks and a statuesque frame. Her most famous trait was her height, 5'9", and she almost exclusively wore heels, making most men feel hopelessly short. Right now, though, she was looking at me with tear-filled eyes like a wounded animal. She pointed to her right foot. It hurts. Can you rub it for me? Please. With that, she slipped off her stiletto and stockings, revealing 5 perfectly shaped, pearlescent toes. Before I could react, she boldly placed her foot in my hand, offering it up like a prize. I had to laugh. I gently set her foot down. Serafina stared at me, dumbfounded. What are you made of wood? She huffed. You should feel blessed you get to touch my foot. I once had a freshman follow me around offering to lick the ground I walked on. So what? I wasn't some college simp. I wasn't about to play her games. I pinched my nose. Sorry, your feet stink. I have allergies. You asshole. Serafina bit her lip, shooting me a smoldering glare. The gala was about to begin, and the room was buzzing with anticipation. The guest of honor had yet to appear, and the mystery surrounding the enigmatic Mr. Sterling was the topic of every conversation. Everyone was angling for a contract, a deal that could make their company's fortune. I leaned against a wall in the corner, listening. Across the room, Evan was boasting to Chloe that he had already made contact with Mr. Sterling's assistant. Trust me, my performance tonight will leave a deep impression on Mr. Sterling. Chloe barely reacted, her eyes repeatedly drifting toward the solitary figure in the corner. My figure. She was clearly distracted. Evan followed her gaze, and a wave of irritation washed over his face. He forced it down, smiling at Chloe. I know you can't stand to see him fail, but Ryan ended up like this because of his own actions. Chloe murmured, he's the one who did something wrong. It's been so many years. Why can't he just be the bigger person? Evan gave a pained smile. All right, I'll go talk to him. I'll get him a job at our company. Since you're so fond of him, We can afford to keep him on the payroll. Chloe looked at him gratefully. If only Ryan were half as reasonable as you, my life would be so much easier. Evan walked over to me, his entire demeanor changing. He tilted his chin up, trying to look down on me. It was comical, given that he had to crane his neck to meet my eyes. You disappeared for 5 years. Why did you even bother coming back? Just to embarrass yourself. He held out a check. Take this $20,000 and stay away from Chloe, forever. You're not good enough for her anymore. I took the check and ripped it in half. You think you could buy me off with pocket change? Who the hell do you think you are? You want more? Evan stepped closer, his foul breath practically on my skin. You must have failed miserably overseas, so you came crawling back to leech off someone. Let me tell you something, crack. My hand flew up, the slap, so hard it twisted his face to the side. Didn't you brush your teeth? Your breath is disgusting. My voice boomed, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Evan clutched his cheek, his face burning with humiliation. You vulgar thug. You actually hit me. I'm having you thrown out of here. He yelled for the event manager, claiming he suspected I had snuck in without an invitation. The manager hesitated, looking me over. He knew tonight's guest list was packed with the city's elite. What if this was one of those eccentric billionaires who liked to dress down? The manager had read enough novels to know about powerful men who enjoyed humbling the arrogant. If he kicked out the wrong guy, his career would be over. I decided not to make it difficult for him. I flashed a black card with a gold trim. The manager's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He recognized it. The one and only VIP invitation. He knew instantly who I was. The manager bowed low. Mr. Sterling, would you like me to remove him? Evan's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you insane? I just told you he's slap. A sharp, crisp sound. The manager landed a heavy blow across Evan's face. Shut your damn mouth. Show Mr. Sterling some respect. The manager had a surprisingly strong arm. Evan's face was now even more crooked. The sound of the second slap silenced the room. All eyes were on Evan. In the span of 3 minutes, he'd been slapped twice. The veins on his forehead bulged with rage. I waved a dismissive hand, telling the manager to get this piece of trash away from me. The manager spoke into his radio, and 4 security guards materialized. In front of everyone, Evan couldn't bear the humiliation. He roared at me. I don't care who you're sucking up to. You'll always be a pathetic bottom feeder. I'll spend the rest of my life crushing you under my heel. The manager stared at Evan with a look of profound pity. I just said calmly, we'll see who the pathetic one is soon enough. Evan's expression grew more twisted. He leaned in close again, his voice a venomous whisper only I could hear. You're the pathetic one. A failure. You'll never be able to look Chloe in the eye. So what if I framed you for the thesis? So what? Chloe will never believe a word you say. She only trusts me. Perhaps fearing another slap. Evan jumped back after he finished speaking. Seeing my silence, he thought he'd won back some pride. He looked smug. I'll remember these 2 slaps. I'm going to find your boss later and get you fired. You'll never work in this city again. I was genuinely curious. You're that powerful? Evan scoffed. I have a certain reputation in this industry. Build on my thesis, right? I pressed. You've been coasting on that for 5 years at Chloe's company. Guess her firm isn't doing that well after all. You're just jealous. His eyes darted around, and he raised his voice for everyone to hear. You're a plagiarist. I'm going to expose your disgusting past. I patted his shoulder. You should really shut up now. Evan opened his mouth to say more, but the manager slapped him again. The gala is starting. Mr. Sterling is about to go on stage. If you make another sound, I'll cut your tongue out. The manager warned. Hearing the name, Mr. Sterling, Evan reluctantly clamped his mouth shut. The guards grabbed him and half-dragged, half threw him back next to Chloe. Just then, the MC took the stage and began reading my biography. The house lights dimmed, and a single spotlight found me. It's him. The guests who had been watching the drama gasped. They patted their chests, thankful they hadn't gotten involved. I walked onto the stage and announced my plan to launch a new EV project in the U.S., and that I was officially opening bids for 3 major battery supply contracts. Evan held his head, staring at me in utter disbelief. How is this possible? You're all being fooled. He screamed. He's a fraud. He's nothing but a lowlife who plagiarized his thesis. His name is Ryan Sterling. He was my classmate in grad school. He couldn't make it here, so he fled the country. How could he be Mr. Sterling? How could it be possible? Chloe, tell them. He can't be. Evan's eyes were bloodshot. He gripped Chloe's hand like a drowning man clutching a piece of driftwood, as if her agreement could somehow shatter my reality. But Chloe was just as lost, unable to form a single word. She couldn't believe I was the Mr. Sterling, but the scene unfolding before her was undeniable. My assistant, Leo, furious, stormed out from backstage and started beating the hell out of Evan. You dare slander my boss? You must have a death wish. I'm going to personally unalive you right now. Leo's punches were brutal. Evan's cries of pain echoed through the hall. That sealed it. Everyone there knew Leo from his work setting up my company's local operations, attending Chamber of Commerce meetings on my behalf. Before I'd shown my face, he was the big shot. The entire ballroom was dead silent. The only sound was the sickening thud of fists hitting flesh. After landing about 100 punches, Leo got tired and tagged the event manager in. Evan was beaten until he was a bruised, swollen mess, barely recognizable. Chloe couldn't watch anymore and begged me to make them stop. So I told them to pause, which she took the wrong way. Tears of gratitude streamed down her face. I knew you still had feelings for me. That pissed me off. Keep hitting him, Leo and the manager. You got it. Evo. No. Chloe. Finally, with Evan lying on the floor like a broken doll, I projected a video from my phone onto the massive screen behind stage. You're the pathetic one. A failure. You'll never be able to look Chloe in the eye. So what if I framed you for the thesis? So what? Your word means nothing to Chloe. She only trusts me. Evan's snarling, triumphant face filled the screen. It was the recording I'd secretly made just minutes before. The room erupted. Chloe looked like she was about to collapse. How could this be? He told me you stole his research. She doubled over, tears streaming down her face. The memory of how she had testified for Evan, how she had publicly accused me, the man she claimed to love, of plagiarism, crashed down on her with a weight of immense, soul-crushing regret. Evan himself seemed to have frozen, his world shattered into a million pieces. He just kept muttering two words over and over. It's over. It's over. After the gala, Chloe cornered me. Her beautiful face was a mask of despair, her eyes completely hopeless. Why didn't you explain it back then? If you had shown me proof, I wouldn't have been so stupid. I didn't bother to hide my disgust. Every word out her mouth made my skin crawl. I had to fight the urge to get violent again. I didn't explain. I said coldly. I talked until I was blue in the face, and you didn't believe a word of it. I didn't have proof, but did Evan? No, you just chose to believe him instead of me. No, that's not true. Chloe started to explain, but I cut her off. Enough. 5 years ago, you were already emotionally cheating on me. You had a thing for Evan. Chloe shook her head, confused. But how did Evan get a copy of your thesis? I let out a bitter laugh. You should ask yourself that. You were the only other person who knew my laptop password. Chloe swore she had never done it, that she had never told Evan the password. She apologized profusely, promising to fire Evan and clear my name. But I wanted nothing more to do with her. I'll clear my own name. What goes around comes around. The people who did wrong? Not a single one of them would get away. Looking at her tear-streaked face, my mind drifted. If it hadn't been for Evan, maybe Chloe and I would be married by now. Maybe we'd even have a kid. But Evan's arrival changed everything. Chloe took him under her wing, and the two of them grew closer and closer. I got angry we fought. I even punched Evan once after he provoked me. But Chloe always defended him. Our relationship slowly died, buried under the weight of 1,000 arguments, until the plagiarism incident finally killed it for good. 6 when I got back to my hotel, I found a stunning silhouette waiting outside my door. Thorn Industries really did have eyes everywhere. They'd even found out which room I was in. Serafina Thorn was leaning against the doorframe, watching me with an amused expression. The great Mr. Sterling, staying in a hotel? Haven't you bought a house yet? You could always stay at my place. Thank for the offer, but my penthouse is being renovated. I politely asked her to leave. Serafina stomped her foot, pouting. You know, fun. I came all this way just to see you. I glanced at my watch. It was almost midnight. If you don't mind the gossip, I certainly don't mind the company. She followed me into the room and produced a business proposal. Thorne Industries wanted to be my primary supplier. I read through it carefully. The terms were surprisingly fair. With their technical expertise, they were the optimal choice. I looked up, my eyes unintentionally tracing the deep V of her neckline. I was taken aback. This woman, she was playing on a whole other level. I remembered she'd been wearing a different dress at the gala. Had she changed into this outfit specifically for me? I closed the proposal. Thank you for this. It's very impressive. Serafina swung her long leg over and rested on my lap. My foot is sore. How about that rub now? I clear my throat. You really don't have to do all this. Thorne Industries is a world-renowned company. You were always my top choice. She wouldn't let it go. It's sore. Just rub it for me. That's it. I was done with the games. Forget the foot rub. We're adults. Let's get straight to the point. My hand shot out. Serafina let out a sharp cry. A week later, Leo reported that Chloe had indeed fired Evan. He had managed to get a teaching position back at Westwood University, but Chloe wasn't about to let him off that easy. She went to the university administration, demanding they investigate the plagiarism case from 5 years ago, stating that Evan was the real culprit. She claimed to be consumed by guilt and insisted they punish Evan severely to restore my good name. After the gala, my reputation in the city was formidable. I was seen as a major driver of the local economy. As one of the university's most successful alumni, they were more than happy to believe I was innocent. Having a plagiarist as a poster boy for the university was a bad look. The stain needed to be removed. The university leadership opened an official inquiry. Chloe immediately submitted the video of Evan's confession and posted it on the university's subreddit. Soon, Evan's reputation was in tatters. In a desperate move, he asked his old mentor, Professor Wallace, to intervene and persuade me to drop the matter. I remember Professor Wallace being decent to me back then. He was the one who managed to bury the issue so I could graduate. You know what they say, Ryan? Better to forgive and forget. Evan has learned his lesson. You should let him have a way out, the professor urged. I nodded. It was true that Chloe was the one pushing the issue, not me. But if Professor Wallace was asking, I owed him the courtesy of listening. What kind of way out did you have in mind? I asked. Professor Wallace thought for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the old scandal being dredged up. Perhaps I could testify that both of your theses were remarkably similar because you both happened to reference the same obscure academic journal from overseas. It was just a misunderstanding back then. If you just state that to the board, this could all go away. I saw the deep furrows in the old man's brow and couldn't help but laugh. He might not know, but I knew for a fact that my thesis was entirely unique. Many of the core concepts were my own original ideas. They wouldn't be found in any journal. His explanation wouldn't fool a child, let alone the university's academic board. Professor Wallace looked at me, confused by my laughter. I composed myself, my voice turning icy. Professor, you're about to retire. Why are you so invested in helping Evan? Such a model educator. The sarcasm hit home. The professor's expression turned pained. I slid a document across the table. It was a paternity test. It stated, in no uncertain terms, that Evan Reed was Professor Wallace's biological son. I suspect you were the one who gave my thesis to Evan in the first place. Back then, I had submitted my paper to Professor Wallace. Less than 2 days later, Evan filed the plagiarism complaint. I had always assumed Chloe had foolishly given him my password, but seeing her reaction now, that didn't seem right. That left only one possibility. Professor Wallace shook his head with a bitter smile. I would never do something like that. The boy stole it from my briefcase. He explained that he had taken my thesis home to review it, and Evan had copied it behind his back. Bound by his love for his son, he couldn't bring himself to expose him. My anger turned into a cold, mocking laugh. So, I was the one who had to suffer? I was the one who had to run away to another country in shame? Where was your conscience then? I remember you always teaching us. Be a good person before you try to be successful. Build your character before you build your career. Is this you leading by example? The boomerang had finally come back around. Regret and guilt lashed at the old man's soul. He stood and gave me a deep, formal bow. I was wrong, he said, his voice heavy with shame. After the truth was revealed, Professor Wallace was demoted and forced into early retirement. Evan was fired from the university and blacklisted from academia. 7 Chloe came to find me. Once again, she held out a ring and asked me to marry her. Evan has been punished. I've atoned for my mistake. Can you marry me now? I'd marry your mother before I'd marry you. For the second time, I shoved the ring into her mouth. And Evan's punishment? It was far from over. Please don't be so cruel, she mumbled after spitting out the ring. I waited for you for 5 years. She tried to grab me, but a new figure suddenly appeared, looping her arm through mine. It was Serafina. Darling, why is this woman bothering you again? She radiated the authority of a rightful queen, warning Chloe to back off. Ryan is my man now. You should have some self-respect. Chloe didn't believe it. That's impossible. She thought I had hired her to make her jealous. But then Serafina leaned in and said with a sly smile, he has a small mole on his inner thigh. She paused, her lips curving. And Miss Vance, I'm sure you remember his stamina. He's a marathon runner, if you know what I mean. The words hit Chloe like a physical blow. A strangled, heartbroken scream escaped her lips. No. She clutched her head, sobbing uncontrollably. Just then, a disheveled figure emerged from the shadows. It was Evan. His eyes were sunken, his hair a mess. He looked like a homeless person. Chloe, he rasped, I'm the only one who truly loves you. Shink. He pulled out a utility knife, its blade gleaming coldly. Ryan Sterling, you ruined my life. Now you're going to die. He lunged at me. Look out. Serafina screamed. In a flash, Chloe threw herself in front of me. She looked at me with an expression of finality and mouthed 5 words. Ryan, I love you. For fuck's sake, get the hell out of my way. I shoved Chloe aside with another slap, then used a disarming technique I'd learned in a self-defense class to knock the knife from Evan's hand. Chloe, her face twisted with rage, scrambled to pick up the knife and turned on Evan. This is all your fault. You ruined my happiness. At the last second, Evan managed to grab the blade, slicing his palm open in the process. He howled in pain. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. Evan, Chloe, put the knife down. Don't be crazy. Chloe, you die, and then I'll stop being crazy. Evan was frantic. You're delusional. The situation is simple. I love you. You love him, he loves her, and she loves him too. If you just came back to me, everyone could be happy. This only fueled Chloe's rage. I was so blind. I regret ever meeting you. She pushed the knife forward, and Evan screamed again. Stop your goddamn whining. I snapped. I gave Evan a light tap on his rear with my foot. It was just enough to make him stumble forward. Squelch. The utility knife plunged directly into the space between his legs. Evan clutched his groin and dropped to his knees, a dark stain rapidly spreading through his pants. Chloe panicked and yanked the knife out. Hiss! Evan's eyes bulged in agony. Terrified, Chloe lost her nerve and, in a moment of sheer panic, shoved the knife back in. Evan began foaming at the mouth. Chloe collapsed to the ground, sobbing, accusing Evan of destroying her life. If it wasn't for you, Ryan and I would have kids in kindergarten by now. You monster. Don't you feel any remorse? Evan, barely conscious, whispered, Can we please go to a hospital? It really hurts down there. No, Chloe screeched, grabbing his hair. I was only nice to you because Professor Wallace asked me to. He said you were a relative, that you didn't know anyone here, and that I should look out for you. And you used that to frame my boyfriend. I was such an idiot to trust you. Evan Reed, I hope you rot in hell. Evan's lips were turning blue. I give up. Just hospital, please. As he lost more blood, he could feel his body growing cold. But Chloe wouldn't let go, shaking him, demanding answers. With the last of his strength, Evan said, You like me too. Don't pretend I didn't notice it all these years. Everything I did it so we could be together. I knew you could never get over Ryan Sterling, so I had to destroy him. Then you would be all mine. Chloe shook her head violently. You're insane. I never loved you. Seeing he was getting nowhere with Chloe, Evan turned his pleading eyes to me. Ryan, please. Can you just call an ambulance? I'm getting a little dizzy. I told him I'd love to help, but dizziness is a minor issue. I think it's more important that you two clear the air. I looked at Chloe. Why don't you start? I'd like to know if I was wearing a green hat for the last 5 years. Chloe answered immediately. I swear, I've been celibate. I never let Evan touch me. I looked at Evan. Anything to add? Evan looked like he wanted the world to end. Say something, Chloe cried, desperately shaking him. Evan, I saw Evan's eyes start to roll back in his head and stopped her. All right. Even if you were physically faithful, your loyalty wavered, didn't it? I sighed. Everyone saw how you were with him back then. Don't treat us all like idiots. The color drained from Chloe's face. She finally confessed. Because I was always so focused on my academic research, she had developed feelings for the more roguish and free-spirited Evan. I thought as long as I kept my distance, it wasn't crossing a line. I was tempted. I deserved to be punished. On that point, I agreed. You helped him frame me. For that, you deserve whatever you get. Thud. Evan collapsed onto the floor. His eyes were open, pupils dilated. It was impossible to tell if he was alive or dead. 8. I met Serafina's parents. The meeting was cordial, and we signed a partnership agreement. Thorn Industries was now officially my battery supplier. As soon as her father put the signed contract away, his expression shifted. My stomach dropped. I had a bad feeling about this. Before her father could speak, her mother jumped in. Ryan, have you two slept together? If you have, you need to take responsibility. We should start planning the wedding. I was stunned. Was this something you discussed at the dinner table? Serafina's father grunted impatiently. He's a man, isn't he? Nothing to be shy about. I glanced at Serafina. She was pretending to be intensely interested in her wine glass. I had no choice but to admit it. Her parents exchanged a look, and then both of them beamed. Well, since a wedding is on the horizon, consider the partnership agreement our family's contribution. As for their wedding gift to me, her father held up one finger. A $10 billion investment in your new energy venture. I was ecstatic. $10 billion. A 5'9" supermodel. A body that could stop traffic. My life was officially on easy mode. The rest of the dinner was a joyous affair. Her father and I killed 5 bottles of high-end scotch. He insisted I stay the night, but according to their family tradition, Serafina and I had to sleep in separate rooms. Of course, she snuck into my room later, curling up in my arms and asking me to hold her. Fueled by the alcohol, I was ready to go. Serafina seemed just as eager. At the critical moment, the lights flicked on. My future mother-in-law was standing in the doorway, hands on her hips, looking thoroughly annoyed. Absolutely not. You'll wear him out before the wedding. He needs his strength. Get back to your room now. She lectured Serafina the entire way down the hall. Sigh. What a mess. Just as I was feeling thoroughly frustrated, my phone buzzed. It was Chloe. I immediately declined the call. It rang again. I answered. It was Evan's voice. So the bastard didn't die. I have Chloe. If you want her to stay in one piece, you'll come to click. I hung up, blocked the number, and went to sleep. 9 the next morning, I had a dozen texts from an unknown number. Ryan Sterling, are you a man or not? I'm really going to kill Chloe. Image. JPG. See? I'm not bluffing. I have her. The address is. Are you that much a coward? Just answer me. Don't tell me you're sleeping. I don't believe you. Hello. Are you coming or not? So he really did kidnap her. I forwarded everything to the police and then went with them. The address led us to a secluded cabin deep in the Cascades. I kicked in the rotting wooden door and found Evan slurping a cup of instant ramen. He dropped it immediately, grabbing a hatchet and holding it to Chloe's throat. She looked exhausted after a rough night, but her eyes lit up with relief when she saw me. Evan, however, was a shocking sight. His face was pale and waxy, his expression unnervingly soft, and his voice was high-pitched and reedy. This is your fault, he squeaked. They ruined me. I'm going to make you pay. So that's what happened. What do you want? I asked. Ryan Sterling, if you're a man, you'll trade places with her. I only want one of you. Fine. Kill her. I said, turning to leave. You bastard. Evan pressed the hatchet against Chloe's neck, a thin line of red appearing on her skin. I stopped, goading him. Go on, do it. Her life has nothing to do with me. Evan gritted his teeth. You really don't care? Why should I? I haven't spoken to her in 5 years. She's tainted goods. Chloe cried out. I'm not. I'm clean. Evan let out a twisted laugh. See, Chloe, he doesn't love you. I'm the only one who's ever been completely devoted to you. Chloe started sobbing. I never loved you. Please, just let me go. Evan shrieked. After what they did to me, you can't abandon me now. If I'm going to die, I'm taking you with me. He raised the hatchet, ready to bring it down. Chloe screamed. I shouted now. It was the signal. The SWAT team swarmed in. Police! Don't move. A dozen rifle barrels pointed at Evan, freezing him in place. In that moment of hesitation, Chloe snatched the hatchet and swung it down with all her might. Aya! Evan's right hand was severed cleanly at the wrist. Ultimately, Evan was arrested. A long prison sentence awaited him. After several rounds of negotiation, everything was finalized. I announced my engagement to Serafina Thorne. The news sent Thorne Industries stock soaring. After riding that wave, my future father-in-law officially announced his $10 billion investment, causing their stock to skyrocket even further. But weeks went by, and the $10 billion never materialized. I started to get annoyed. What happened to that $10 billion? I asked Serafina, wasn't that part of the deal? When am I going to see it? She pressed herself against me, tracing circles on my chest with her fingertip, making my skin tingle. Darling, you invest billions in me every night. Are you really worried about that? I blushed. Stop being crude. I'm serious. I was determined. No 10 billion, no wedding. Serafina tilted her head up and whispered in my ear, "You idiot, I am pregnant." I was shocked, then overjoyed. We're getting our marriage license tomorrow. We'll have the wedding next week. 11. The wedding was a who's who of the Pacific Northwest business elite. Serafina, in her wedding dress, was breathtaking, a modern-day goddess. Guest after guest came up to congratulate me, the envy in the men's eyes palpable. And why not? Wealth, fame, a beautiful woman, status. I had it all. Thinking back to when Chloe accused me, it felt like a lifetime ago. Sigh. I shook my head. Why was I thinking about her on a day like this? Suddenly, a sharp shout came from the entrance. "Ryan, you can't marry her. I'm the only one who should be your wife." Oh, for Christ's sake. It was Chloe's voice. I looked up, and sure enough, there she was storming into the ballroom. In front of hundreds of guests, she was wearing her own wedding dress, screaming that she was the one I should be marrying. I was furious, but also confused. "Chloe, aren't you still under observation after that kidnapping incident?" She was raving, waving her arms wildly, shouting that the doctors were all liars. They put me in a hospital, said I was having a psychotic break. I'm not sick. They're all just trying to keep us apart. I wiped a bead of sweat from my forehead. She had actually lost her mind. Serafina, her face a mask of anger, started forward to have her thrown out. Chloe rolled up her sleeves and glared at Serafina like a rabid animal, looking like she wanted to tear her apart. I worried about my wife and our unborn child, and quickly had the bridesmaids form a protective circle around her. I tried to reason with Chloe. You made your choice a long time ago. There's no going back for us. If you have any respect for what we once had, please leave me alone. My father-in-law and mother-in-law came over, standing in front of me like bodyguards. They said in unison, "We consider Ryan our son. If you cause any more trouble, you'll have to deal with us." Chloe's face turned purple with rage. She bit her lip so hard it started to bleed, but she didn't even seem to notice. Suddenly, a shrill laugh echoed from above. "Ha ha! See, Chloe? Didn't I tell you I was the best one for you after all?" Everyone looked up. It was Evan dropping down from skylight. I sucked in a breath. This guy was like a piece of gum on my shoe. I just couldn't get rid of him. I discreetly dialed 911. Evan, missing a hand, brandished a taser, his eyes fixed on me with murderous intent. "Ryan Sterling, if I'm going to hell, I'm taking you with me." The escaped convict was surprisingly effective. He swept the taser across the room, taking down my groomsmen and several guests who tried to intervene. At the critical moment, my in-laws stepped up. My father-in-law leaped into the air. "White Crane spreads its wings," he yelled. My mother-in-law pressed her palms together. "Old man pushes the cart," she shrieked. Impressive, I thought. Zap, zap. Evan took them both down with 2 shots from a taser. With the situation deteriorating rapidly, I did the only logical thing. I ducked behind Chloe. She was, after all, the love of his life. It worked. He hesitated. I peeked my head out from behind her and wiggled my fingers at him. "Come on, tough guy. Take your shot." Evan roared. "Ryan Sterling, you coward. Come out and fight me one-on-one." "Fight your mom," I yelled, ducking back behind my human shield. Just then, Chloe, with a burst of insane courage, snatched the taser from his hand and shoved it directly into his mouth. The chaotic ballroom fell silent. Hundreds of pairs of eyes were fixed on Evan. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Chloe, he mumbled around the taser. Are you really going to do this? It was a surprisingly touching moment. BZZZZZZZT. Chloe hit the trigger. An intense electrical current shot through Evan's head. He collapsed to the floor, convulsing violently. At that moment, a squad of police officers arrived and took both Chloe and Evan into custody. As they dragged her away, Chloe looked back at me with a heartbreaking expression. I shuddered, praying to God that those two psychos would be locked away together, forever. Epilogue 1. Evan's perspective 5 years later, I finally got out. That taser blast from Chloe damaged my brain. I lost the ability to speak. I was mute, disabled, and impotent. All thanks to Chloe. That woman is truly heartless. I will have my revenge. She has to die, right? Time for my meds. I swallowed 2 tranquilizers, the fire of vengeance burning in my eyes. A few days later, I found out where she lived. I waited until late at night and climbed in through a window. Chloe was still as beautiful as ever, though she looked a little tired. She was sleeping soundly. I watched her mesmerized. A wicked thought entered my mind. Should I assault her? After a long moment of consideration, I remembered I couldn't. Damn it. Just then, Chloe turned over and her eyes fluttered open. I quickly hid. She got up and went to the bathroom. I stood outside the bathroom door, pulling out a utility knife. My merciless face was reflected in the sharp blade. I decided this was it. When she came out, I'd slit her throat. Letting her finish peeing was my final act of mercy. I heard the toilet flush. She was coming out. I tightened my grip on the knife. Crack. The bathroom door suddenly swung outwards, slamming into my hand and driving the blade of my own knife deep into my throat. I collapsed, my heart filled with an overwhelming sense of injustice. Who the hell has a bathroom door that opens out? As I watched Chloe walk, sleepy and oblivious, back to her bedroom, I was filled with regret. I regretted ever plagiarizing Ryan Sterling's thesis. 12 Epilogue 2. Chloe's perspective. Evan Reed died in my home. The police ruled it a suicide. Even though I'm on psychiatric medication and sometimes have hallucinations, everyone tells me this really happened. I remember what Ryan said, "What goes around, comes around." This mysterious force filled me with a sense of awe and a strange sliver of peace. I became a vegetarian and started chanting Buddhist scriptures, praying only that in the next life, he and I could have another chance. The end.